All right, we had to bring in Will Fortson of the Bradeaux and Will Show, the number one source of my information
Number
for Houston
one,
Rockets news,
always,
comments, all that
always.
great stuff. A great follow on Twitter at
Facts.
BiasedHouston. Everybody, please welcome the show, Will Fortson. Give it up.
Thank y'all.
Give it
Thank
up.
y'all for
Clap.
having
Even
me.
if you're driving. Even if you're driving.
Clap if you
Will, listen.
driving.
We have fallen in love with the Houston Rockets team. I gotta ask you though, what is the grade you're giving them up until the All-Star break, A through F, and have they exceeded your expectations?
I'll give them an A minus.
Okay.
I feel like they could have been better than what they have been, but they at the same time they're very much way ahead of schedule. And then as far as did they reach my expectations, I would say they have. I thought they were a period of time they were better than my expectations, and they went on a 6-game slide, and that kind of brought me back to where I thought they were going to be. So I'd say they're about where I thought they would be at this point in time.
Has the way the season progressed kind of moved the timeline up for you guys? You feel like?
I don't. I think this is kind of always the plan. I think
Okay.
the plan was that this would be the season where you would see them start taking that step towards the playoffs and start. I don't think we're going to win a series this year, but we might win one, but we may not get past round one. So I don't think that was the plan, but I think the plan was for this year to be that year where they take that step forward. And I think they're going to evaluate in the summer what sticks, what doesn't stick, what needs to, if we need to make a move here or there, whatever needs to be done to like get this team to that next level. I think that
All
comes
right.
in the summer.
So listen, like you guys, fun to watch. Kind of stumbled into the All-Star break. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that you're missing some key cogs in the rotation. So don't want to be too harsh, but is that something that concerns you, or are you just kind of like we just had to get to the break and get there as quickly as possible, regroup, and we'll be all right?
We obviously we lost to y'all's Nets.
Yeah, we
Why
weren't
is it?
healthy, but the Rockets didn't have their whole squad that game.
Yeah, I mean we shouldn't have lost to the Nets, man. Especially that last one.
He's
They lost
The last one we had that game. It shouldn't have been a close game. We had it won, and then we had that nasty turnover at the end. So
that
I'll
was it.
say those two games should not have lost.
Yeah.
The rest of them, I'll say like it happens over the course of 82-game season, especially when you're down. I think at one point we were down 3 starters.
Yeah.
And like I know Fred and Jabari have been out for quite some time now. So when you're down that many starters, and then like Steven Adams and Tyrese, they don't play back to back. So we've had games where like they've been out as well. Like it happens over the course of a 2-game season. So I don't put too much into that because it is like we were hurt. But some of those games, like I said, the Nets games, I don't think we should have needed the full team to beat the Nets.
Yeah,
Look,
I agree with you, by the way.
Look, that's a
Quab,
Nets
I'm
fan.
sure Quab does too.
As the Nets fan, I wanted the Nets to lose. Okay, I
Yeah, I bet you did.
tanking. Yeah. So I was shocked by like the second game. You guys should have clearly won that. But like Josh said before, you guys have been down starters. You guys have been down players. With that in mind, right? If the team is fully healthy, what do you envision your lineup being? Because, and I'm only asking this because, and we'll talk about Amen later. But we were talking about, well, Amen should be a starter moving forward, right? And when Jabari comes back, is he? And we were just trying to figure out, is he going to start or whatever? And we kind of got killed in the comments by a lot of Rockets fans. They were like, Jabari starting, shut the F up. We're like, we're just asking the question because we're neutral fans when it comes down to it. So we're just trying to figure it out. So in your opinion, everybody healthy, what do you envision the starting lineup being?
I'm mad that they started trying to kill y'all in the comments, man.
It was funny. Some of them were hilarious.
Man, we got to do better. No, I think Amen Thompson, that's a start for me, non-negotiable. Like that's not up for discussion. You can pick whoever you want to pick. He's not coming off the bench no more. So that's to me, that's not negotiable. What I think they're going to do, I think they're going to have Jabari come off the bench, fresh off the injury. I think they're going to kind of use it as like a ramp up, work yourself back into shape process kind of thing. And I think if like it looks good and things start looking better from that point on, we'll say, all right, well, we can maybe move this guy around, put him back starting 5, whatever. I think they'll evaluate what needs to be done after that week or two of Jabari off the bench. But yeah, like I can't like if it was up to me, I would probably have Dylan come off the bench. It's not that I think he's been bad. I just think that for lineup balancing purposes, I think Amen and Bari make more sense than what Amen and Dylan would, or what Dylan and Bari would. So yeah, I would have Dylan come off the bench, but that's probably really difficult to do considering he's the vet and that's the Ime's guy. So I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna do after that ramp up period. I do think Jabari comes at the bench initially.
So I have a question. Now, this may not be about this year specifically, but Amen Thompson's obviously. I mean, I think he could be a top 5 player in the league. That's how high I am on Amen Thompson. Like, best player you could build a championship team around. That's how good I think his potential is. Now, you have Fred VanVleet at the point guard position. How do you handle this going forward? Do you re-sign Fred? Do you want Fred on the team? Do you give the keys to Amen and just kind of go with the bumps and bruises that come along with him learning the point guard position and developing a jump shot? What's the road look like from here on out?
Yeah, so I do think that, funny enough, not only I think that Fred should be on this team next season, I'm starting to wonder if I just accept that team option as opposed to trying to give him a long-term deal because he kind of is declining. I mean, to be fair, we kind of expected that, right? We expected him to take a step back as he gets a bit older. He kind of has some knee issues and whatnot. So like that makes sense to me. So I've kind of debated because we're not going to be paying anybody important next year anyways. A lot of these guys should only sell contracts. Would it be more beneficial to the team to go ahead and bite the bullet on that team option as opposed to trying to give him like a 2-3 year extension where the last year or two that he might actually be not good anymore? But I do want Fred on this team next season. That I do want. And I think that he can maybe start the season because Amen is versatile enough to play like 1 through 4. I mean, you might even throw him at the 5 at something like just a small ball lineup, so, depending on what you do. But you can start him and Amen. And I do think that he is beneficial to Amen's development as the future point guard of this team. I do think by the end of next season, though, Amen needs to have control of the team. Like by the end of next season, I think that transition should have taken place. And I think Fred is in a position where he can kind of age into that 6-man backup point guard role. And I think that he'd be really good in that role for this team. As somebody who's been there, a leader for this team. And I think his skill set can age into that. So that's kind of how I would try to do it if I was in charge.
Speaking about, I guess, the point guard position, another player you have on the roster, Reed Shepherd. And he's kind of been like a hot topic recently because I feel like people are prisoners of the moment when it comes to him and like comparing him to Castle. And you had a great thread on Twitter. I'm going to call it Twitter. It is Twitter, where you kind of broke down how you felt about it. And I feel like if you guys don't follow, if you're a Houston fan, follow Will, follow BiasedHouston, like a great breakdown talking about it. How do you envision him, especially if it's Amen point guard of the future, Fred kind of like backup? How do you envision like Reed kind of fit it in the team moving forward?
Yeah, so I think that Reed is versatile enough to where if you wanted to like start him at the 1, which I think he, obviously right now it's not looking like he would be the starting point guard, but I still believe in Reed. So let's say that he figures it out and he becomes good enough to be the starting point guard of this team. I think he's versatile enough. Him and Amen are versatile enough where Amen could start at the wing position, and you still kind of have. You still give him Amen a lot of those on-ball, like, point forward kind of reps. And then Reed is versatile enough where he can play with the ball, without the ball. I see those guys being able to play alongside one another. But it does become a little bit interesting with, where he is right now. And then you still have Jalen Green in the backcourt. And you kind of ask yourself, okay, does Reed and Jalen work defensively long-term and stuff like that? But I didn't draft Reed because I needed him to take over as point guard. It seemed like I thought he was the best player available at the pick, and I think he does fit with a lot of the guys that we have long term. And so when you bring that guy to the team, I think he can like one day. I know it's not looking good right now, but I think one day he's gonna be able to make an impact on this team regardless.
All right, so the big criticism about the Houston Rockets this year, particularly is their half-court offense, shooting the basketball. Is that something that can be fixed this year, or it just is what it is? Like,
it is what it is. That's been one of my biggest points for Rockets fans this year, because I think the fan side of things, you want to blame the coach more than like your favorite player. And I'm not saying blame is in like, oh, it's this guy's fault. Like, you know what I'm saying? But like, Ime Udoka can only do so much when NBA teams aren't respecting our shooters, because it's Amen Thompson, it's Dylan Brooks, it's Jay Tate, it's Tyrese, and I like those guys, but defenses don't guard them. And in 2025, you can't have a successful offense, especially in the half-court set, if defenses are conceding open shots to like 2 or 3 year guys on the court at all times. Like that, it just doesn't work. There's no play you can draw up that gets around that. It's not like just cut off of this or just do something different and it'll work. Like there's nothing Ime can do about that. I think this is as good as it's going to be for this team this season, and that's one of the reasons why I don't think we go that far in the playoffs. Even though I know we took a bit of a slide in the standings, but we were number 2 for a pretty like huge chunk of the season, and I was never like this team's going to the conference finals. I'm like they're going to lose. Depending on who you draw, you might lose in round 1, but you probably for sure don't make it past round 2 because we don't have a half-court offense, and that does become a lot more important in the playoffs than it is in the regular season. So yeah, I think this is as good as it gets for this season, and I think that's one of the main things we're going to look at this summer.
With the success you guys were having, like with 2025, all that early on, were you surprised the team didn't kind of make a move at the trade deadline for like a shooter like the name everybody was saying Cam Johnson? Were you surprised they didn't like make a little bit of a move just to like shore that up?
Yeah, I mean, I'll cut them a little bit of grace because it's easy to armchair GM and like, oh, you should have got this guy. Like, it's easy to do that, but then you don't know what all those teams were asking for and what negotiations were going into and stuff like that. But yeah, I was a little disappointed that they did nothing. Yeah. Not even like look to sign someone on the buyout market. They kind of just kept the roster the same. Because like there are some pretty apparent flaws on the team. That being said, I also understand the perspective of you just want to play the season out where you kind of don't have any expectations really. Like no one's gonna look at this Rockets team and say y'all failed this year if you go in and lose a competitive first round. Like no one's gonna say that the Rockets failed if that happens. So I understand it from that perspective. It's like we're playing with house money and you don't want to make a move while you don't have to, if that makes sense. So I get that perspective. I would have done something. I would have brought in not even necessarily just a shooter. I like Robert Williams. I thought that he would have made a lot of sense for this team is like to kind of take over for Steven Adams. I think Steven Adams is a pretty good player, but he has some clear limitations, particularly like with his foot speed that I think Robert Williams can kind of make up for, stuff like that. And there's a couple other like shooters like Colin Sexton on the market that I would have took a look at, but I was a little disappointed, but I understand the perspective though.
All right, well, we're going to play a little bit of For Real Fugazi. For real, if you think this team is going to beat the Rockets, you would pick this team against the Rockets in a 7-game series. Fugazi, if you think the Rockets are going to beat them. Western Conference edition. You ready?
Yep, let's do it.
All right, For Real Fugazi, the Memphis Grizzlies.
That's one of the teams I think can get us. I do. I think that's a team that, because they're more experienced than us and they've been in the playoffs more, I think that's going to be on their side. I think talent-wise, we're neck and neck. I think experience, they have that over us. And so I think we could beat them, but if I was a betting man, I'd probably bet the Grizzlies.
Interesting, because you've done well against them this year.
Yeah.
So that's all right. That's interesting.
I'm really surprised at that because anytime we've actually watched the Rockets versus Memphis, you guys have always won.
I'm pretty sure Rockets are gonna be mad at me for saying that, but because like I said, at the same time, it's like we're inexperienced. We don't know what they're gonna look like. Like,
yeah,
I love Zay, I love Shingun, but you don't really know what these guys are made of until they get to the postseason, and we don't know that. And then like the Grizzlies, they know, like they've been there before. They've been in some competitive series before. So like I think experience absolutely does matter, and that's something we don't have in the playoff setting.
All right, well, For Real Fugazi, Golden State Warriors, full of experience.
Draymond said they're gonna win the chip. Draymond said they're gonna win the chip. Right?
We are 100% the better basketball team than the Golden State Warriors. Yeah. The only reason why I give pause is we just can't beat them for some reason. I don't know why, because we're much better than them. So we should beat them in a 7-game series, but they I guess Steph and Draymond wake up when they play the Rockets. So. But we should beat them.
Hey man, I mean you guys beat them to go to the end season tournament, so which was a big game. That was dope. So
yeah. It also gets the monkey off your back. Like it's like, okay, we can do this, because there was a time period where the Rockets couldn't beat the Warriors. Now you prove that you can, even though like you caught in that last game before the break. It was without, like you said, 3 rotational pieces. It's not like you had your whole team and then the third team
that's true.
Won that game for you. So.
Although I think we lost a game to them where Steph didn't play this year.
It was when they were down 30.
Yeah, I think we lost.
Jeez.
Yeah, but they came back. Tari Eason single-handedly brought.
Yeah, shout out Tari for that one.
Yeah.
That was a crazy game. Yeah,
that was. Tari Eason's mother followed me on Twitter after that game because I gave her son a shout. All right, For Real Fugazi, the Los Angeles Clippers.
No, they don't beat us.
Okay.
Unless Kawhi Leonard turns back the clock, they don't beat us.
Okay. Cool.
Yes. Yeah, somebody's on my side when it comes to the Clippers.
I like the Clippers. I think they're a little underrated, but I like the Rockets too. It'll be a good series. I'll just say that. All right, For Real Fugazi, the Los Angeles Lakers.
No, they don't beat us.
Nice. Let's go, Will. Let's go.
I think pre-trade they might have got us. I don't think post the trade they do.
Okay.
What was your reaction when that trade came across your phone?
Bro, I was at a Chili's.
Yeah.
I started screaming. Like, people were like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Bro, y'all see what just happened? Like, this is crazy." So yeah, no, that was by far like that'd be the craziest thing I've ever seen. It is my time as a basketball fan.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Hands down.
100%.
Hands down.
100%. All right, last one. Free will for Gates, the Denver Nuggets.
They get us.
They'll get you guys.
Yeah, they get us out of it.
All right. I
Jokic
wanted to
gets
see
us.
if you would push the limits there. If you would push the limits there. Ain't no shame in that. Champions 2 years ago. Ain't no shame in that.
Yeah, Jokic gets us. He's still the best player in the world.
Yeah. All right, well, listen, thanks for coming on, man. We definitely appreciate you doing a temperature check of the Houston Rockets. We've recapped plenty of Rockets games this year, and we've had a really good time doing so. So once y'all in the playoffs, we'll reach back out, we'll get you back on, and we'll preview the series that you have.
Let's do it.
People, watch the Rockets. Watch the Rockets. You're a fun team. Yo, watch the Rockets, man. They're a fun-ass team, man.